love this city. You love living here. You love going to places that are your favourites. And one of those places might be Southbank. It has changed shape and size over the past 40-odd years. Once it was sort of industrial, then it was the site of World Expo 88. Now there's 42 hectares of recreational space. It's your space. Southbank Parklands has now become Southeast Queensland's probably most popular public space. According to the Premier, it's the People's Park, and it's getting another zhuzh. Can I put it that way? Bill Delves is the Chief Executive Officer of the Southbank Corporation. He's Chief Zhuzher, perhaps. Hello, Bill.
Morning, Rebecca.
I feel like Southbank's had a facelift, a revamp, a tickle and a shine pretty regularly over the years. Why do we need another one?
I think that constant renewal's the secret to the place. I think the community keep changing and their needs keep changing, and aspirations of both the locals and the visitors really drive us to keep it innovative and evolving. It's always nice to come and find something new.
People will have their certain spots that they know or go to, or their reason for coming to the park. It might be the kids' pool. It might be just, riding or walking through. But for a lot of people, they would have come to Southbank to go to the piazza. Mm-hmm. What's happening with the piazza?
Look, part of the idea of the master plan was to challenge the status quo, challenge what the people love, challenge the things that they think have the potential for change, and challenge the things they think are ready for change. Remember, this is a vision for the long term. This is not a pre-Olympics vision. This is a vision for the long term. So we've taken 10,000 pieces of feedback to get to where we are today to come up with this draft. And the piazza was a great example of something that's probably underutilised and has the potential to probably provide some different aspects. I'll give you a couple of examples of that. First is it provides a really important link for the river up to Musgrave Park. Our consultation with all the First Nations traditional owners and elders locally have said it was a creek line for many years. And that's reflected in some of the works we've done down by the river to show a small creek line as a piece of artwork. And so to enhance that and evolve that to greater connection up through the convention centre and up to Musgrave Park might be an amazing opportunity. So we've put that forward as part of the vision. And remembering, I was told a story once that the piazza, actually the roof of it's demountable and it might find a lovely home somewhere else.
Oh, you're taking the roof off the piazza?
Well, we'll just see how it evolves. It's all about the feedback, because what does it become? How does it evolve? The proposition we have at the moment is to open it up and maybe sleeve a building beside the edge of the conservatory.
Ah, okay. So then what about, taking the roof off is one thing, but what about because I'm trying to remember, I said it's like a little mini concrete circular stadium, and then I went, the seats, could the whole thing be removed?
I think the tricky part is we've still got to work through that design. This is really the vision stage.
Right.
So the piazza, when it was first built, was actually designed to face the other way when we had a 100-kilometre-hour busway running down Grey Street at a higher level. So over time, as you've asked earlier, the whole of the places had needed to adapt and evolve to suit the changing needs. And at the moment, it is a little bit of an underutilised space.
I'm surprised that it's underutilised, because what's the capacity of it? How many people can you get in there?
You get a couple of thousand people sat in there. So
you can get a couple of thousand, right. Okay, that's even bigger than I thought. Last time I was there, it was John Farnham and a whole bunch of choirs, and I think I was just only focused on Farnsey. Why is it underutilised? Do you have to pay to use it, or?
Look, I think the needs of people have evolved and changed. We find that the outdoor spaces are more popular. We find outdoor performances are far more popular through the parklands. And it's just become a space that we're asking the question. We're posing the question there. It's slated at the moment for 3x3 basketball at the Olympics. And like all of the venues throughout the precinct, we're there to support the designations that are already there, the tenures of tenants. We're there to support things that need to be resolved. But remember, this is a long-term plan.
Yes, and 3x3 basketball at the Olympics is only for a couple of weeks. There's, lots of space either side of that. The building, I'm really interested in the creek line and the idea of understanding and acknowledging that history from Southbank, the piazza, through to Musgrave Park. What's the building you said that could fit in there?
So all we looked at was it possible to reuse that whole space but still give you a very strong sight line all the way between the river and Musgrave Park?
Yeah.
It's a beautiful flow through there. We might be able to do some work in the streets leading up to there and better connect the edge of the convention centre. Remember, the front door of the convention centre is on the way up that reach?
Yes.
So it's really important we think about that line and whether the lines that were Grey Street, the Arbour and the Promenade are now just as important to go the other way from the river up to the park.
Let's get an artist in. Let's represent the river somehow. I'm going to be talking about footpath murals with an artist in just a moment. Maybe I'll put it to them. Bill Delves, you are the Chief Executive Officer of the Southbank Corporation. You've mentioned a couple of times now First Nations people. In amongst the revamp, is there an idea for a First Nations museum, centrepiece, artwork, history? That is the thing that I've had lots of conversations with people with over the years. More recently with David Hinchliffe, who has been a champion of this idea, saying, why don't we have something like that? Not just in Brisbane. We don't have anything like that anywhere in the country. Why not make Brisbane the first place to do it? Can you?
Look, I think our approach to this has been to try and think about what a future Southbank could look like. We've probably not tried to find homes for specific venues, and these are challenges to obviously for government to work with the community and with the key stakeholders. I think what we've tried to do is move a model that allows for flexibility, allows for a long-term vision that you can continue to evolve and adapt. So this won't all be built in a day. It's scalable, it's stageable, and we can actually work to the needs of the community as it evolves. So there's spaces and places that could become something different, and I think the most important part is it's the time for people to have their say. We've gathered that knowledge. We've got a website, futuresouthbank.com.au. On it, there's the ability to fill out an online survey, have your say, send us an email, whatever you think is really what it needs. What do you like? What don't you like? What's it missing?
When we talk about Southbank, where does it start and where does it stop?
I think the edge is a bit blurred.
Yes.
Our responsibility is relatively clear. That 42 hectares starts at the Maritime Museum at one end and travels all the way along the river and ends at Victoria Bridge at the other end. We step all the way back to the convention centre and a few of the buildings behind it. So, but Grey Street and Little Stanley Street are represented in the plan. It's really important we think about those as key corridors, but at the same time, can they be a bit more flexible? Can they be more usable for pedestrians and cyclists and be a more fun place to be? You
are also taking into consideration the idea of building more restaurants along the river, including potentially the cultural forecourt. So just outside of the studios here, past the Ferris wheel, past the construction site of Neville Bonner, you've got the big Brisbane sign in front of QPAC. Are you going to put more restaurants down there?
So what we looked at was the cultural forecourt has 2 steps in it. They're about half-metre steps twice as you walk down. So it makes it a hard, usable space for large crowds. And we used to run lots of festivals there, big shows. So I think the important part to look at its future was if we could lift it just a little bit, then under the front edge there, you could put some really clever, flood-resilient restaurants in there that might actually provide an amazing vista of the city and the river and re-engage us back with the river we love so much.
Yes. How do you make a flood-resilient restaurant, Bill? Because the other thing is, if you'd come here in February, you couldn't find a pair of gumboots big enough to get through that water and that mud.
I think what we're trying to do is think about some of the practicalities of the new designs that are coming from the learnings of the last flood and the ones before.
Yeah.
Some of those flood-resilient strategies are all about thinking differently about design. And as I said, 30-year horizon or a long-term horizon, this gives us a chance to really start thinking about these things slowly. As I said, staging them in when the time's right.
Plenty of people will support more green space, pedestrian-friendly, wider boulevards, bike lanes, that kind of thing. I don't imagine you're going to get much pushback there. You going to change anything to do with the beach and the lagoon?
It's probably time it grew. When you think Southbank built 1992, 1.2 million people in Brisbane, nearly twice that now.
Same year that the zoo opened.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so when we look out to 2040, when the city doubles again, we're trying to think about a plan that allows you to really take that thing that the people love. They love that beach and water play space. So it's about to come, the design is really built around in this vision of a more interactive kid space to play in, something far more dynamic, and a beach that's slightly enhanced and slightly twisted to grab that more northerly view.
Oh, hang on. So we're going down further towards the maritime end.
So we're basically looking at taking the little space towards the maritime end and building a little grass hill there that you can look out over the beach and expand the beach slightly, and removing that little kids' water play area and bringing it to the other end where the playground is.
Oh, okay. Things are really taking shape.
So if you look at the plan and jump on the website, Future Southbank, it becomes fairly evident what the changes are.
Yes.
Or what they're proposed to be.
Just while you're floating around the maritime end, someone on text says, we need a maritime museum free to all.
I think what we've tried to do in the plan is to show a link across the front. which might open it up to the public to make it more visible. So there's a link across to Kangaroo Point Cliffs that might actually, a little pocket park down the front that might make it so you're looking back on the Maritime Museum as you take your walk around the face of the cliffs and back to Southbank.
Is there not a link now? Like, how do you...
You have to widen your way around the back.
Oh, you come closer to the children's hospital sort of thing
Do.
and in. So how would you create a link there?
If you look in the plan, it provides effectively a cross-water link. The design at the moment is not too dissimilar for those that know the New Farm Park, the New Farm Link.
Yeah.
And it takes some of those principles and just looks at the possibility of how you might better join some of the pieces.
More of a river walk, yeah?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. What about a treetop walk?
Look, the treetop walk was just something to have a different aspect of Southbank. The proposition in this vision shows about 400 more trees across the precinct, and it really starts to enhance the ability to have different perspectives of the city, different perspectives, and really drag us back into that green space that is the rainforest and understand it a little bit better, tell its story better.
Yeah, but to do a treetop walk, you need some tall trees. Have we got them?
But as part of the plan, as I said, the vision is to plant a lot more trees. The species will be really important, and really how we start to envisage what the future might look like. Again, hard to build it on the first day, but
Yes.
really important to work our way towards
It might be a ground-based tree walk initially. So any other events? You mentioned the 3x3 basketball that'll be held for the Olympics in the Piazza space. Are there any other events that you have to take into consideration for the Olympic or Paralympics?
At the moment, what we understand is what's been proposed is archery on the cultural forecourt and a number of events inside the convention centre, your typical internal events,
Yes, bit of badminton.
taekwondo and others.
Yes, okay. So the archery, that's out here near the Brisbane sign.
That's what's proposed at the moment.
Right, B for bullseye. What about the idea of extending the Southbank footprint? Because if you went further around in front of the museum, the Gallery of Modern Art, there's more green space up around that bend of the river. I think back when Jackie Trad was in Parliament, she pitched that idea, an extension of the parklands. Is that an option?
I think our plan's trying to take account of the projects that are going around us and talk to how we best connect. Connecting with other projects, connecting with other precincts is a really important part of getting this right. It should be simple for the public to move through those spaces. So I think our job's just to be a really good neighbour to the other projects around us and make sure we help try and join them together.
Yeah, well, simple is one thing. The other thing is affordable parking, Bill. Now, no one likes to pay for parking. CBD parking across the river is pretty, you got to dig deep in your pockets. Will there be any changes to parking at Southbank?
At the moment, I've got nothing planned at this point. I think it's important that we make as accessible as possible, and I think parking is one of those elements. Not forgetting we have multiple bus terminals, multiple ferry terminals, and multiple train stations. So it's really accessible in terms of public transport, and in the vision you'll see easier for cyclists, easier for pedestrians. So there'll be many forms of ways to get here. But at the moment, no plans in relation to parking.
All right. And can I, just circling back to the concept of an Indigenous cultural centre, are you saying that that's not necessarily for you to pitch or consider? That would be an external agency who might come in and do that?
We've created a number of sites in the precinct that are quite flexible and could accommodate many uses. But at the moment, we haven't provisioned for a First Nation centre specifically in the vision at this point.
Yes. Okay. Well, it's exciting times, Bill.
It's an amazing time for Brisbane. Like, how cool is it that we can actually get together and start having these conversations about our future? And I just sense the vibes lifting at the moment.
All right. A bit like the roof of the Piazza lifting. See what you did there? I know I did it. Bill, lovely as always to see you in casual attire. Normally when you come in, you're in a suit and a jacket. Is this Tropical Friday, is it?
I think it's time occasionally to let your team let their hair down on a Friday. So today it's nice to be back, Rebecca, and thanks for the conversation.
We'll see you soon. Bill Delves, who is the Chief Executive Officer of the Southbank Corporation. So there is the future Southbank draft master plan in a little more detail. We talked a bit about pedestrian-friendly spaces, wider boulevards, bike lanes earlier in the week, but reimagining that cultural forecourt, what could the Piazza do? More lagoons or beach area, the idea of a kind of a hill that you could look down on, a better connection between that maritime end of Southbank and Kangaroo Point. You can have your say too. Public feedback is open until the 14th of December. So jump online. I did write it down. futuresouthbank.com.au.